Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I have the pleasure of welcoming Andrew Bloch onto my channel, a guest I've been wanting to bring on for a while now, has huge amounts of experience in the topics that we're going to be talking about today. But for any of those that don't know Andrew or perhaps don't know your background, Andrew, if you could just give us an overview of who you are and what you do.
Thanks very much for having me. So yeah, I'm Andrew Bloch. I'm a consultant in the marketing services space. I founded an agency, a PR agency called Frank about 21 years ago. Stepped back from that nearly 2 years ago to become a non-executive director. And now I advise various different marketing organizations, brands on how they can achieve success with their marketing, whether that's growth, whether it's finding the right agencies, whether it's selling themselves, being acquired. I also look after Lord Sugar. I've been his advisor and spokesperson for over 20 years. And I sit on various different charitable organisations and not-for-profit. I work with the Prince's Trust, working with St Paul's Cathedral to help them build a COVID memorial, work with Big Community Records, and I mentor at places like the School of Communication Arts and the School of Marketing. So a little bit longer than 30 seconds, but a lot to fit in.
No, perfect. And so today, for all the audience watching, the topic will be around the habits of highly successful people. So understanding sort of those key components of what certainly you're exposed to, Andrew, and within yourself and your own business. I think there's going to be huge amounts of knowledge and value that you're going to be able to share, because I think a lot of people, especially off the back of 2021, got very excited about new business ventures, new ways of making money, and that terminology actually of new money. Is it easier, to make money now? Who knows? Some people make money pretty quick, but there's still elements of hard work and consistency and long term that go into it. So I want to sort of take from you the exposure that you've had to working with, like you said there, Lord Sugar being one of them, those that have done very well. So just to kickstart this, what are the key components that you have yourself and those that you are surrounded with for anyone thinking, okay, do you know what, 2022, I'm going to start a business, I'm going to be the best entrepreneur. What does someone need to have?
So good question. And you ask 100 different people, they'll probably tell you 100 different things. In my opinion, you need three things, and they all have to work together. So you need natural ability, you need to work hard, and you need a bit of luck. And I think, without natural ability, you can work as hard as you want, and it's going to be hard for you to achieve the ultimate success that you desire. I personally don't believe that anyone can achieve success without hard work, unless you win the lottery or get lucky with crypto investments or what have you. Generally, all the people that I work with, including myself, work very, very hard. And then finally, you need that element of luck. There are people that, work hard, are good at what they do, and sometimes don't get that lucky break, or perhaps more importantly, don't know how to spot the opportunities when they're sort of staring them in the face. And I think if you can get all those three things working and they combine, ultimately that's what leads to success.
Yeah. And so around the habit of working hard, because I think this is something that almost is being forgotten about. I saw a saying most recently and I thought it was spot on in the sense, and I think I've even heard Lord Sugar on a program or whatever it might be. And the saying firstly is that if you don't want to if you want to be able to get to the stage where you don't have to look at a price tag, you need to be able to get to the stage of not clock watching and seeing when that, that 9 to 5 and think, I've got to switch off now. So what habits, and is there a pattern in the really successful and in with what you do that actually, you've got to think outside the box and you've got to be willing to put in the hours, and perhaps are we in a day and age where people might believe that actually it's that 4-hour work week, is hard work's at the core of it?
Yeah, I think the key to a lot of success is understanding yourself and how you work. And it's about working smart. You can sit in front of a computer for 12 hours a day and not get anywhere. You need to understand, I think it's about differentiating between what's urgent and what's important. And when you're dealing with a lot of things, you're constantly bombarded with requests and having to do things. A lot of them are kind of urgent things, but they're not important. The important things might be doing something strategic for your business. It might be, it's actually often the things you find most difficult. And what I've taught myself to do over time is identify the difference between what's urgent and what's important. And then also understand myself and my own sort of body clock and how I work. So, personally, I'm pretty good first thing in the morning, and I sort of fade, have a pretty useless period in the middle of the day, and then annoyingly sort of perk up towards the end of the day. So I try and adjust what I do into that time slot. So I do the really important stuff first thing in the morning. It's, some people call it eating the frog, sort of get out of the way, the things that you find hardest. In the middle of the day, I'll do the stuff that I can do with my eyes closed. I need to do, requests, helping people, chatting on the phone. And then again, when it gets towards the end of the day, I might try and do something that is a bit more challenging, a bit more strategic, a bit more difficult. Understanding yourself and how you operate is really important. And it's also about being able to find a work-life balance. I think one of the benefits that's come out of the pandemic and the fact that a lot of people are working from home is that they can get a better work-life balance. And when I reflect on how I used to work a few years ago, an insane amount of meetings, traveling, things that could be emails, things that could be quick phone calls. And I've tried to sort of, I guess, keep those positive elements of the pandemic alive and not meet for the sake of meeting, not do a Zoom call when it can be a phone call, not do a phone call when it can be an email. And that's given me back a lot more time. And, again, I work within the parameters of how I operate personally. So I often take, the afternoon off, spend it with my kids, but then I sort of get back in front of the computer 7, 8 o'clock at night, bang out a few hours, work before I go to bed. That works for me.
And so there's two things there and do you see this amongst others that you work with and you surround yourself with? Is obviously you've touched on a routine with work-life balance is extremely important for anyone to accept they're going to need to find a balance. And also you sort of said about finding that, well, obviously it comes within that balance, but finding those batching periods of time leverage. So for example, I do exactly the same as what you've just said there, and I think more people should adopt this method. Is that, does it need to be a meeting? Can it be a Zoom call? If it doesn't need to be a Zoom call, can it be an email to leverage that time to your best of your ability? Do you also see that amongst others that you work, that there's that pattern that they all have?
Yeah, I think the best entrepreneurs can soak up large amounts of information and get to a decision or an action pretty quickly. If I take someone like a Lord Sugar, we exchange, I don't know, sometimes 20, 30 emails a day. I would say his average length of email, 2 or 3 words. And that's because we've worked together for a long time, so there's no need for the sort of niceties. But, a simple yes or a no, call me, we get stuff done quickly. I don't think people have got there's a real skill in being able to get to the point quickly. And, I've also learned from the sort of pitches that I receive, when you're going through a lot of information, a lot of emails every day, you just want someone to get to the point quickly. And I've learned that skill of, how do you hook people in and get their attention without waffling on, without them deleting your email, without them forgetting about it, or without them understanding what you want. It's unbelievable how many people sort of get in contact and you sort of read an email and you think, what do you actually want? The best communicators know how to do it with brevity. And of course, that saves you time as well. And I think when you do work with successful people, a lot of the people I work with, they've got more money than they could ever know what to do with. That's not their drive. It's not their motivation. They do it because they love it, and they do it because they enjoy it, because they can make a difference to others, to help people, to mentor them, to oversee lots of different things. And what I've noticed with most of them is they're incredibly good at balancing their work and their life. I mean, I'm not even sure there's such a thing as work-life balance. I don't really know what the right phrase is, but somehow the most successful people, annoyingly, kind of manage to have it all. And, you take a successful entrepreneur, and generally the more successful someone is, the quicker they are to get back to you, the quicker they are to give you an answer, the quicker they are to get things done. Yet they're most likely, on a yacht, on a private jet, in a different country, on a holiday. But they're sort of balancing it and making it work. It's a massive skill to be able to do that. There's no badge of honor in being a workaholic. And, to be honest, most years, I'm not a big one for New Year's resolutions and what am I going to achieve, but pretty much every year, the thing that I'll have in my head is, how do I achieve the same level of success, maybe slightly more. I'm not really looking to do anything hugely different from what I did last year or the year before, but how can I do that, achieve the same success, but have more time to spend with my kids, to go on holiday, to spend with my girlfriend, whatever it might be. And I'm not sure, I don't know, I think I make incremental improvements all the time, but when you love what you do, it's not a job and it's not about clock watching. I mean, I can tell you now, the only time I ever look at a clock is when I start to feel hungry and I think, oh, it must be lunchtime, or it must. And sometimes that's 3-4 in the afternoon and I haven't eaten anything. That's brilliant. I think I feel incredibly lucky, incredibly blessed that I fell into something that I just love. It doesn't feel like work. I know that feels incredibly cheesy. It's a really annoying thing to say to people who aren't lucky enough to have found something they love. But when you find something you enjoy, it's not work. You don't resent it. You don't mind doing it. And you do have to focus yourself on growing and learning and pushing the boundaries, because I think the moment you get bored is the moment you need to look at something else. And for me, I'm always trying to push myself slightly out of my comfort zone so that I feel, comfortably uncomfortable in what I'm doing. Otherwise, you do get bored, and that's when you start looking at the clock, and that's when you start resenting working, and I should be with my family, I should be out with my mates, I should be on a beach in Barbados, So when you're doing something that's pushing you, you're enjoying it, you're challenging yourself, that's when time just sort of flows past. And that's the best thing. I go to bed most evenings pretty exhausted, but happy with what I've achieved in the day. You always feel like you didn't get everything done, there's more to do, but that's a nice feeling. Actually, when I get stressed personally, and it doesn't happen very often, is when I'm sitting there thinking, no, but what should I do? I don't really have anything. Yeah. It doesn't, it maybe happens once every 6 months, it really, but I hate that feeling. I'm at my best when I'm busiest and, on the edge of spinning too many plates, but in control. The plates are sort of wobbling gently, but they're not about to sort of fall off a stick. So, and I think that's where most entrepreneurs operate at their best. And if you don't feel like that, then you're not pushing yourself hard enough. And that's where you need to look at, what do I do next? What else can I do? How do I build my portfolio?
Yeah, I think, and I would second everything you've just said to anyone listening. Any certainly successful entrepreneur or business owner that I've spoken to, I could say every single one of them really enjoys what they do, and therefore, if they got to put in the hours, they don't mind doing that. And it's the same for me. I don't, I could relate to a lot of what you said actually. You get to 8 or late in the afternoon, you think, oh, I haven't even eaten today, but the day's just flown by, you're knackered, but actually you've really enjoyed it. So I think that is one of the biggest, I suppose, eye-openers for anyone listening is, are you actually enjoying it? Is it a slog? Is it a bit boring? Then perhaps that's not the right thing for them or for you at the time. So amazing stuff, Andrew. Moving on to the network of being a business owner, entrepreneur, anyone wanting to sort of act at that peak performance. How important for you and for others that that have done very well has the network been? Because we hear a lot about this. I'm kind of a big believer in having a really good network. How important has that been within the circles that you're in?
No, I think your network is incredibly important. When I started out in PR, a lot of the people that I grew up with that were starting jobs in the media, celebrities, junior brand managers, I've sort of kept my contact with them, and now they're the editors of newspapers. They're very high profile celebrities. They're anchors on TV news shows, and I think I've always, for me, you always have to act with integrity. I never take on clients or business when I don't think I can do a good job. I know how to say no to things that are outside of my comfort zone. I'll never let anyone down. Reliability is critical. So all of those contacts have sort of stayed with me. And actually, when I made the decision to step back from day-to-day role of running an agency, what I realized was actually to be successful, it's now about how do I use this network and monetize it, so to speak. And I don't mean that in a cynical way, but actually, my whole career and everything I do is about making connections between various different people, whether it's taking a celebrity and finding them a brand endorsement or the other way around, whether it's working with agencies and showing them how they can make more money, whether it's sitting as an advisor on the board of a business and helping them make the right connections with investors or acquirers or whatever it might be. And I sort of fine-tuned that skill set to get my network working together. And I think, I pride myself on, I don't think anyone would say anything negative or bad about me. I hope not, in terms of letting them down or not delivering or over-promising. And, that's your reputation. I mean, I'm not one for, cheese and wine parties, my name is Andrew. Sort of, I'm terrible in those sort of situations. I'm actually, I probably sound quite introverted when it comes to sort of that physical networking thing. But there's other ways to network and to build. And, I read a lot, not necessarily books, but social media, following people that I'm interested in, following businesses that I'm interested in, engaging with those people and learning about what they do so I can understand how I could add value or connect them to something that might be interesting. And I guess that's, social networking. It's that's probably what I do a little bit more. I never like to put myself in a situation where I'm in a room full of strangers and have to pitch and introduce myself. I just don't feel particularly comfortable doing that. But I'll always introduce my network to other people, and then what you find is you put that energy out there and they do the same back. And I've been very fortunate to have built a business without ever having, I guess, picked up a phone and tried to sell myself. Everything is incoming, and it goes without saying, personal recommendation is the best form of building a network, and that's how 99.9% of my business takes place. It's someone recommending me to someone else, and you don't necessarily have to sell yourself because they already trust the person that's recommended you.
Yeah, recommendations, and again, I would totally agree. I think that's so important in the sense of having referrals. I think speaks volumes rather than having to really sell yourself. I would also just sort of touch on what you said there about, and I suppose an important point that I just want to make off the back of what you just said is going into a room to network essentially, and then try and figure out who everyone is, and potentially again waste some time trying to explain who you are, opposed to actually being able to use your network and just touch the people that you need to. And also, big thing on what Andrew just said there is something that I sort of live by as well, is that once you open up your network, you often find that also that help comes back. What you give out, you'll also receive. So big points there. Sort of moving on to our our final points, Andrew, is for someone looking to achieve high levels of success and to really wanting to be the best that they can be personally and then drive that through into business, what are the key points that they need to start with and stick with long term? Starting as you mean to go on to be ultra successful, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's probably a little bit of a summary of some of the stuff I've already said. I think, first of all, you've got to identify what you're passionate about. And if you're doing something that you're not passionate about, then figure out how do you make that move. And change is never easy. There's never a good time to make a change. You never feel ready to make a change. But you have to find what it is you're interested in. And you have to find something realistic. There's no point waking up tomorrow and thinking you're going to start an airline. It's got to be something within the realms of your capabilities. And then it's about consistency, really. I think, one of the things that I see with a younger generation coming up is this sort of immediate need for success. And success is a journey, and it will have ups and downs. You need to learn how to deal with the ups and downs. Failure is a much discussed topic. I don't necessarily believe we should celebrate failure, but you have to be prepared to deal with the downs, and you have to learn from the downs, and then just drive through and be consistent in what you're doing, and if you persevere, like I said, if you've got a natural talent, if you're doing something you enjoy, if you put in the effort, and then hopefully you get that luck come back to reward you for that, that's where you'll achieve success. And you just have to keep doing it day in, day out. I would say there's probably not a single day of the year where I'm not thinking about work or doing something. I'm not saying I work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, but it's not just a job. When you run a company, or whether you're entrepreneurial in any sort of aspect, it's your baby. Your business and what you're doing. It's not just, I'm not necessarily financially driven. I think that comes as a benefit of the hard work and the success. But if you think about just money and making money, to me, that's not the right motivation. It's about figuring out what you want to do and being successful at it, and then the money follows. And it's a good kind of barometer of whether you're achieving success. I've always been very targets driven, and even when I work for myself now, I still set myself targets because I'm competitive, and the best entrepreneurs, I think, are competitive and want to win and want to push themselves further. So for me, it's just like a metric to measure, have I been successful? But that's not necessarily the driver of doing what I want to do. I want to do good work. I want to keep people happy. I want to grow it. Ideally, I want to work slightly less to achieve slightly more. But remember, I've been doing this for quite a long time. So now, for me, actually, probably the biggest barometer of achieving success is whether I am achieving that balance and I'm happy socially, personally, as well as professionally. I want to be able to give back and know that I'm helping others and setting them off on their journey. So it's not just commercial metrics. It's kind of in the rest. You have to be clear on what it is that's important to you, and it will be different for different people. So there's no point listening to what I say and writing it down and think I'm going to do that as well, because that might not fulfill you, but that's what fulfills me. And if you look at all of these successful entrepreneurs, what drives them when they've got enough money, when they're at an age where they could retire, it's personal things to them, but they've all got their metrics and they're all doing it. They'll all turn away stuff they don't want to do and embrace things that they probably haven't got time to do, but personally it will fulfill them, professionally it will fulfill them. So you need to kind of figure all of that out and then be consistent and put the graft in. That's, to be honest, for me, the most important thing is the tenacity and never getting too high on the highs or too low on the lows. You have to find that balance. You have to understand how you operate. For me, I don't want to be stressed. Yes, sure, sometimes you feel a little bit overwhelmed with a workload. I don't want to be up at night worrying. I don't want to be, just in a negative state because I don't know what's going on. And that takes years and years of practice and working to your strengths and pushing yourself to do the things that you find slightly more difficult, slightly more challenging, and it becomes easier and easier with time. But that, again, it's consistency and tenacity, I think, to me, are the two most important traits.
There were brilliant points there, Andrew. A lot of people are going to learn from that, and I really hope they take something from that, because there was three main things I just want to reiterate as we bring this to a close. Is one, you've got to have a really good reason why. I think having that engine to drive you forward. Two, you hit the nail on the head. It cannot be about the money. This is something that I've sort of gone at. That can't be your drive, because I think that's short-lived. I think once you get the money, you buy the Ferrari, you buy the house. It just becomes a house and a car. You have to enjoy it. So that, and consistency. You said that tenacity to keep going. So there were some amazing points, huge learning curves there. So I'm going to bring this to a close, Andrew. I can't thank you enough for coming onto the channel, sharing that. And Andrew, if anyone wanted to explore more about what you do, or even get in touch for potential collaboration in the future, where would they go, or how could people reach out to you?
Pretty easy to find. You can find me on any sort of social media network if you search my name, or my website is andrewbloch.co.uk, and that's got all my contact details.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for everyone who watched, Andrew, for joining, and until the next time, we will see you all very soon.